So let's move to data prep. Self-service data prep for big data. So data prep is a huge part of what we do in BI. You know, we assume that about 60 to 80% of the BI project cost is all about preparing the data, making sure that you collect the data from all the right places, integrate it, clean it up, enrich it. Data is messy, especially when you have to work with multiple data sources, and doing data prep is a huge portion of the effort that we all expend to create a BI project and to maintain. Things change, things get, the data is not static, and we always have to deal with new situations. So it's very, very expensive. And at Microsoft, we've been spending a lot of effort on this already. We have a facility that you've all been using. It's called Power Query. We introduced Power Query maybe 5 years ago. It's been part of Excel. It's part of Power BI. It's immensely popular. We have tens of millions of users that have used Power Query. Actually, because of the Excel exposure, it's become the de facto way of people who know how to connect to data sets, to data sources, how to bring the data in, how to manipulate the data. Power Query has been immensely successful. We are continuing to invest in data, in Power Query, in the data preparation facilities there. We have introduced just last month the IntelliSense for M, and those of you who are using the M language to go and write expressions in Power Query appreciate it. And then we have a bunch of really exciting AI-driven features, features that allow you to extract data from web pages and PDF files just by example, or create expressions by example. The ability to do fuzzy matching, so you don't have to have exact matches. You can have nicknames, and you can have spelling mistakes, and still the joins will work for you. And the ability, something that you haven't seen yet, the ability to look at the data, not just in the regular table-centric way of Power Query, but in a more graphical way to understand how the shape of the data that you're morphing looks like. And to show all of this, I'm going to invite Justina Lutznik to show us the new Power Query. And I hope you know which one it is.
Yeah. Yes, I do.
You do? Okay.
I do. Let me just open this up first. So bear with me 1 second. Just need to log into the VM. Okay.
There you go.
Okay. So let's pray to the demo gods. Oh, no, not early enough. Okay. Let's try this again. All right. So what I want to show you guys today are some of the new capabilities coming into Power Query, which you will all be able to play with the October Power BI Desktop release. And the first thing I wanted to show you is I want to actually start from getting data. And I'm sure you guys have seen the web connector that we already have inside Power BI. So here I can basically type in the name of a website. Let's connect to rottentomatoes.com. And I can bring in data from the web. And so far, we've supported bringing in data via HTML tables. But not always is your data so nicely structured in HTML tables. And so over here, for example, if I try to connect to this doesn't look so great. So what we are allowing you to do is actually add tables using examples. So let's take a look over here. Once this loads, you'll see that this particular website, we've got Rotten Tomatoes, which is all our new movies coming out. It's not actually using an HTML table to visualize your data. Things are kind of in this matrix form. But I want to get the movie title, I want to get the popularity, and I want to get when it's being released. So all I have to do inside Power BI is basically type in the house with a clock in its walls. I need to get a second example, a simple favor. And Power BI, oh man, should have gone ahead and just pre-populated the rest of the titles, but for some reason, the CSS selector was not found, and honestly, I have no idea why. So let me try bringing another column in and hoping for the best. And let's see if this is going to work. So here I'm bringing in the popularity, and we see that it's populated with the rest. Yay! There we go. Thank you. So, and then I can go ahead and do this with the next one. I'm really pushing my luck here, but let's see, in theaters. I did not check. It's in theaters September 21st. So let's try this again. Theaters, September 21st. And now I should technically be able to give it one example. And yes, it's populated the rest too. As you can see, it's not all the same. There's one in August, so it's not just repeating it over and over. So the kind of wider point is I can take something that's in a matrix form and just bring it in. I can click OK. And Power BI is going to generate the expression for me. I can select this table that I want to bring in over here. And it's going to essentially bring in this table over here. And let me actually select it and bring it in. Now, we also have this capability of bringing in data by example directly inside Power BI too. So if we have this customer table that we have over here, imagine I wanted to add a new column. And I can select Add a New Column. And I can also select Column from Example. And let's go ahead and do something a little bit complicated here. So let's try and bring in, let's say, all uppercase last name. Then bring in, let's say, first name. And then let's say bring in sales representative over here. And press Enter. And then let's select the second one. So let's bring in Trujillo. Oh. And let's try to stick to the rules I've just set on myself. So uppercase, lowercase, and then in brackets, owner. And that should have not been a 0. Oh, man. Sorry. Let me try that again. My typing is really failing me today. And OK. And I still can't, apparently. Oh, right. Yes, thank you. Let's make this all uppercase. I have made this very complicated for myself. But just to push the boundaries for Power Query and see, it goes ahead and remembers all these rules. And if I actually take a look at this particular expression, I'm going to click OK. I'm going to add this column into my data set. If I take a look at this expression, you can see that this is not trivial. If I wanted to write this from scratch, I mean, I know I struggle a little bit with even this one, but that's just me. But this would have taken me quite a while to actually craft by hand. And so, with Power Query, with adding by example, I can just do this so easily and seamlessly. So another really cool feature that is going to be coming into Power BI in the next release is the concept of using fuzzy matching for merging. So in this case, I have two tables. I have this people's table, which is all of my salespeople, and then I have the sales that my salespeople have inputted. And I can see my salespeople are a little bit inconsistent with how they write their name. So sometimes they put Bill, sometimes they put Bill lowercase, sometimes they decide to give themselves the nickname Billy. And so this is going to be a nightmare if I try and actually merge these tables together. So let's go ahead and see what we can do today with the new feature coming in, which is fuzzy matching. So let's go ahead and select my sales table. And you'll notice over here, I can select Use Fuzzy Matching to compare the merge. And I can select this feature, and we have a whole bunch of different configurations that are possible. And what this is going to do is it's going to allow for this sort of leeway. So these matches don't have to be exactly perfect. And I can select some additional configurations, such as ignoring cases, ignoring spaces. I can even add a transformational table. So if I have some sort of custom synonyms, I can go ahead and add them in as well. And so now I'm going to try and select OK. This is a little bit too low for me. This is a great day for demos, guys. Hit Enter? Yes, that worked. Thank you. There we go. OK. And so now I've merged these two tables together. And so I'm just going to select this one over here so we can take a look. So if we see Bill over here has been matched with Bill, lowercase Bill, with Billy as well. If we take a look at William, again, lowercase, uppercase, Willia, so someone forgot the last letter. And so we're going to enable these sorts of fuzzy matching capabilities along with high customizability for this. And the final demo I wanted to show you guys is some of the data profiling that we're introducing into Power Query. So Power Query is amazing for doing all our different data prep, but what it has been lacking in a little bit is sort of this visual representation of the data and proactively letting me know about things I might want to care about. So over here, you'll notice this little green bar just underneath the column name. And if I hover over this, you're actually going to see that we have some errors inside this data set. And I can just click on Remove Errors, and it's just going to generate the M expression for me and automatically remove the errors for me.
It's cool.
Yeah, and then another thing we also have is, yes, thank you, adding the concept of column quality and column distributions directly in the Power Query editor. There we go, thank you. And so now I can see the distribution of my columns. Again, I can see how many unique ones I have, how many distinct ones. I can remove duplicates straight from inside here. In the future, you'll also be able to actually click on this histogram and automatically filter your data. So we're going to be really investing in improving these data profiling capabilities inside Power Query. Yep. Thank you, Amir. Okay. I'm just going to set up my own next demo.
Okay, thank you. So you've seen what we are doing, and we continue to innovate with Power Query, but we want to take it to the next level. Power Query is great. It's integrated into Excel, integrated into Power BI. You've been ingesting data into your desktop with Power Query. But all this work that you're doing in the desktop is locked into that desktop. And it's locked into that BI model that you're creating. And we know that preparing data is much more than that data set, that report. We know that it's so strategic, it's so valuable, that we need to be able to treat data preparation as a standalone thing, as something that we can go and prepare the data and then use it for multiple data sets, combine it with additional data sets that other data sets that other people are creating, collaborate around the data without the context of that BI model. And this is where we are introducing data flows. And I want to talk, data flow is something new. It's a new fundamental capability of Power BI. It's as fundamental as reports and dashboards and data sets. Data flows are at that level. And I put there a statement that says data flow are to ETL what Excel is to programming, because I think data flows are truly going to create a revolution in this ETL industry, in the data warehouse, data laking industry. You guys have been working with databases for a while. I know you've been working with data lakes, I hope, and you know that the ETL part is really hard. It's really hard. It is what takes a lot of work, and we're trying to make it simple. And I say, how do we make it simple? How do we make this hard task of data quality, data integration, data enrichment into something that business users can truly drive and make, and really reduce this time and cost of this and by an order of magnitude? And we took a look at Excel and what Excel did to programming. What does it mean Excel did to programming? When I started programming many years ago, I programmed BASIC on the Apple II. Yes, that's how it looked like. And you can see there are all these go sub statements because there were no functions yet. There are no local variable. Everything was a global variable, and you created a program by writing the code with line numbers, 10, 20, 30, and you created function that you called to, and you created programs this way. And one of the most important things of programmers that they have to do is control the program flow. Call the functions at the right time, in the right order, making sure that under the right conditions, making sure that the variables that the functions are manipulating are not corrupted by other functions. This is how bugs creep in. This is what we do as programmers all the time. And it was fun. I loved it. Millions of people learned to program this way, but then came Excel. Now, the beautiful thing about Excel is that nobody had to control a program flow. You just put the logic of the values into the cells. You created the expressions. And then Excel did all the function call, all the go subs when Excel did it. Excel figured out how to compute it in the right order all the time. And whenever something changes, Excel figured out what to call again to compute. And he did it by analyzing those expressions that you have in the cells, figuring out which expression depends on which other expression, creating this dependency graph that you don't even think about. We've been using Excel for decades. We just are used to the magic. But whenever we type something into a cell, just everything recalcs automatically. We don't even think about it. You don't have to tell Excel to, when I type here, go recalc this cell and then calc that other cell. It just does it. So not millions of people, but hundreds of millions of people can create Excel workbooks because it's so simple. All you have to do is just know your logic for the cells, and Excel will take care of everything for you. Now let's think about the world of data warehousing and ETL in that context. Yeah, we all look at a data warehouse, a data lake. It has a bunch of tables. We call this a data warehouse. The data warehouse doesn't look like this. The data warehouse looks like this. It has all these ETL programs running around it. ETL programs that bring the data in, and ETL programs that join the data, and ETL programs that cleans the data, and ETL cleans the, and delete data, and does all these things. And all these ETL programs are like your functions in your programming. You have to make sure that they're running in the right order at the right time. And yes, you don't have to write code. You can do the lines between the boxes, but it's still programming. It's still your responsibility to orchestrate everything there in the right time. If you do it in the right order, if you clean the table before you copied it to the other place, you just lost data. It's a bug. And this is why it takes so long. This is why it's so hard. You have to be a programmer to do that. This is just like any program. It's just hard. And those tables are like in the old BASIC. They are my global variables. They are one place where all these functions, all these programs are running on, and they can corrupt each other and so forth, right? That's how, this is the old day of programming. It hasn't changed when it comes to data warehousing. What we've done is we say, okay, let's do the Excel trick. Let's do the Excel trick. If we just use Power Query to define the definition of those tables, Power Query has its own functions called the M functions. We can do the analysis of those N functions the same way as Excel does the analysis of the Excel functions. So we have those functions, we do the analysis, create a dependency graph across all these tables, put our own calculation engines, just like Excel has calculation engines, we put our own calculation engine on the top, and from this point on we say, you don't have to worry anymore about orchestration. Whenever some data is going to change in one table because you ingest, we will just recalc all the other tables automatically. We'll know because we understand the dependencies. This is not, just like Excel understands the dependencies, we understand the dependencies. So your data will always be consistent by definition, cannot break it. It will always be, whenever data changes, it will change everywhere consistently in a transactional manner. You don't have to program anymore. You just tell us what the transformation, you tell it to us by running Power Query. Just give us the shape of the data, and the expression comes behind it. And then what we do is, we want to make it really big data, really big scale. We take this and we make it all work on top of the Azure Data Lake. So you can create one of those. Your friends can create one of those. You can now refer to each other. Just like Excel sheets can refer to, Excel workbooks can refer to other Excel workbooks, you can refer to each other. So one changes here, it will trigger the recalc in the other one. And since we're putting in the data lake in an open format, CSV files, you can access it with other services. You can actually do it with Databricks, you can actually do it with Azure Data Factory. It's open. They can create those kind of folders with data. We call those CDM folders, Common Data Model folders, because the data is consistently in the same format. It's self-describing, so when they create one of those, Power BI sees it and reads it and can use it, and vice versa. That Azure Data Lake fabric is a common fabric of data for all the services, Power BI and the other Azure services. So we have this system that now allows a Power analyst, the Power BI analyst, go and do large-scale data transformation in a way that feels much more like Excel than using a professional tool. It's all stored in a common format in the Azure Data Lake, can be combined with other data that either the IT guys create or the other users create. It's all going to be fully consistent because of this calculation engine that we have that makes sure that the things always auto-orchestrate themselves to update whenever new data shows up or data is changing. So that is what data flows are all about. So data flows are this standalone facility, repeatable, reusable ETL that has this Excel way of thinking, operating on the Azure Data Lake, using the familiar Power Query experience. And this is going to be big. We actually have already Informatica on board collaborating with us. They are going to support those data flows. They're going to put their data in the data lake in the same common format, so we can now interchange data with Informatica. So we have 80 connectors and 90 connectors of data. They bring another few hundreds to the table in this one. And to show us how this whole thing looks and feels, I'm going to call back Justina. Thank you, Justina.
Get my mic? Okay, thanks. All right, so I'm inside the Power BI service, and you'll see your familiar dashboards, reports, data sets. But you'll see this new data flows appearing over here. And I can create a new data flow from scratch, just like I would create a new report or create a new dashboard. And I'm going to go ahead and add new entities. The first thing I need to do is figure out which source I want to connect to. And you'll see a very familiar UI. This should look very familiar for all of us who work with Power BI. I'm just going to get data from a particular source. And I'm going to connect to Azure SQL over here. I'm going to give this a connection setting. I'm going to give this a server name. It's picked up the username and password. And I'm going to click Next. And now I'm going to select which database I want to connect to. I'm going to bring in some data about hotel reviews. So we're going to be connecting to some data looking at guests staying in various hotels in Hawaii and what kind of, how they've liked their trip, their various reviews and images. And you'll notice a very familiar UI over here. If you're paying attention during my Power Query demo, this is looking very, very similar. It looks like basically you've taken Power Query and put it inside the Power BI service, inside a data flow. And what I can do over here is do my various transformations, but there's a very big key difference over here. When I was showing you that M script before inside that Power BI desktop file, that was locked to that particular desktop file. Over here, inside the service, inside my data flow, I'm working against Azure Data Lake. And so when I do all my transforms, my new entities and my new transforms are all going to be propagated down into that Azure Data Lake. And I'll be able to save this data flow inside and share it with my various analysts inside the organization. So both analysts as well as me can create multiple reports of this single reusable data flow. And what's even more cool is we're not only bringing data flows over here, we're bringing some very new capabilities for being able to transform your data. So you'll notice this AI Insights button over here. And what I can go ahead and do is select AI Insights. And you'll notice you can add things like cognitive services directly to this data flow. So let's imagine I wanted to add some textual analytics, and I wanted to score sentiment. I can just go ahead and select sentiment. I can find the text column that I need. In this case, I'm going to get my reviews data. Because this is a preview feature, I also have to still specify the language. When we release it, we're going to just pick up the language. And all I have to do is invoke the sentiment. And you'll see a new Power Query step has just been created on the side. So this is just like any other Power Query step that you're used to and familiar with. And you'll notice if I scroll all the way over here, we've got our various reviews text from our customers. And we see the sentiment has just naturally come in. And this is going to be built into Power BI, coming very, very soon. But imagine I want to go further. Imagine I want to bring in a custom machine learning model that my data scientist has built. You'll notice we have this concept of Azure machine learning models also coming into data flows as AI enrichments. So not only now that the data is coming into Data Lake can I collaborate with my analysts in the organization, I can also collaborate my data engineers with my data scientists really easily, because all of this data is sitting in one single data lake that we can all use and share. So over here, I'm just going to flip over into Azure just for a second. You can see my data scientist has built this machine learning model inside Databricks. They've gone ahead and done some data prep, and they've gone ahead and used the Azure ML SDK to train a model and deploy a new web service. And now all the data scientist has to do is go ahead and share this model with the analyst. So that will be me. We've got the model shared with me. And if I flip back into Power BI, you'll see that under Azure, whoops, what's happened here? There we go. Under Azure Machine Learning Models, we have this hotel image classifier model that has appeared. So we've trained a custom machine learning model for tagging hotel images. And I don't have to do anything as an analyst to leverage this model inside Power BI. So all of the Azure machine learning models that have been shared with me will just appear over here. And as an analyst, all I have to do is say, yeah, I want to point it to the image column inside my data set, and click Invoke. And without writing a single line of code, I can now leverage Azure machine learning models that have been shared with me. I can leverage all the cognitive services that we are releasing as Microsoft, starting with the textual analytics ones. So all I have to do now is expand out my image tags. And essentially, once we do this, all of these images that you see over here, which are currently URLs, are going to be tagged, leveraging this machine learning model. And because this is just Power Query transforms, every time my data refreshes, I don't have to go ahead and invoke this machine learning model again and hook things up from scratch. It's just going to run through these Power Query steps and rerun them and score new data as it comes in. So now that I'm done, I can go, thank you, I can go ahead and click done. And this is going to go ahead and save my data flow. I'm going to save this. So I've now got this hotel reviews entity that has appeared. And now I can share this data flow. I can go ahead and connect multiple Power BI desktop files to this data flow, create, essentially lots of different reports. So we're essentially bringing the sort of self-service data prep for a data lake for our Power BI analysts.